The Six Nations resumes. It's back. Unfortunately, it's back for a Wales game. Speaking as Welsh fans, they were very good against Scotland. It was maybe the best Welsh performance since the 2023 World Cup. Not that that's a high bar to clear, but, you know, it was still incredibly encouraging. They could have, maybe should have, in the end didn't kind of fairly win the game. They now travel to Dublin, a place where even when Wales were good, they struggled.
This is a fixture that, as a Welsh fan, is quite hard to get up for, isn't it? Where, you know, as much as like the Wales-Ireland rivalry is always great and always a fun kind of friendly rivalry, I guess, but at the same time, it's like Dublin is such a difficult place to go and win.
Wales's last win in the Six Nations in Dublin was 2012, when they won a Grand Slam that year. They have won as well in a World Cup warm-up in 2015. Justin Tipuric had an absolute blinder that day.
Yeah.
Either way, though, it is 10 years plus
10 years
since Wales last won in Dublin. And this is not a great Wales team.
No.
Say what you like about whether this Ireland team, was it a one-off great performance? Was them getting back to their best? Doesn't really matter. This is a Welsh team they should put away.
The other side of this is, I can't help but feel like the break week has fallen quite nicely for Ireland. I think Ireland will be quite grateful for that, because it's one thing, I guess it's a card, maybe it's a bit of clutching at straws as a Welsh fan, but a card that you could kind of play, a way you could view this is, maybe Ireland will have the same hangover after that England game that Scotland did a couple of weeks ago when they came to Cardiff. And I definitely think that was something that a lot of Welsh fans kind of saw coming, was that Scotland would beat England and then suddenly it's like quite a hard game to back up. Whereas for Ireland, you could say the same thing. However, they have had that week to kind of rest, to reset. Some players go back to their clubs, and then Andy Farrell to make sure they don't get complacent. So I feel like that's fallen quite nicely for Ireland. Not to say that Ireland would have hiccuped or stumbled at all, if not for the break week. But Wales is a banana skin because they are relentless.
Ireland also have the oldest squad in the Championship. And that starts to play into this factor when you're suddenly being asked to play 3 games in a row. And some people have tried to poo-poo this and be like, well, teams play 3 games in a row all the time at league level, and they play 4 games in a row in the autumn, right? Well, they don't play 5. And they tend to play, in the middle of it, 1 game against a Tier 2 nation, almost always, if they are playing 4-up games, where they rotate their team. And they'll play a lower intensity match. Because sustaining the level you're required to from a Six Nations, from a kind of body physical point of view, is insane. Like, it has the same impact on your body as basically being in a car crash 4 weeks in a row.
Test rugby is so much higher.
Like, it's insane. Like, your body can't sustain that. Ireland have the oldest squad. Obviously, it takes longer to recover, longer to get back up to your kind of full effectiveness, which does mean that the break week will come in handy, because generally you see those teams drop off a bit as they go in week on week on week. And Ireland had kind of the opposite thing, right, where the dip came a little bit at the start and they slowly geared up towards, they got better each week, which is supposed to be the other way this can work. And actually the break week again probably came at a good point in terms of just allowing them to refresh a little bit and then go into 2 very different challenges, which are the Welsh team, right, that you should beat, but will make you work for it, which is where this Tandy team's kind of got to, right, is they've become a hard team to batter, even if they're still a team that you should be beating.
So both teams have made a couple of changes, a couple of interesting ones. For Ireland, I mean, one notable point to start with is on the bench they've got Nathan Duck, who is going to be
wins first cap.
Yeah, first cap,
which is extraordinary.
Yeah,
I
son
feel
of
like
Neil Doak, of course. Ulster legend, and he's been cutting about in the ORC and been brilliant, like since he was about 19.
For some time, like it feels like 5 years now, maybe he's been around, and is a brilliant goal kicker, brilliant kind of controller of a scrum half, but also incredibly fast, also really good at upping the tempo. Was released to play against the Ospreys at the weekend, which was not perhaps like the best showcase for everything he can do, but did show again, like he's an incredibly good box kicker. We saw that element of his game.
It's a very alternative option to a Craig Casey as well. They're really different types of scrum half, and I think, you know, obviously JGP's not going to be around forever, and they want to look at alternative options that they can bring in.
It speaks to, though, the way that perhaps Farrell is viewing this Welsh team is to look at that, to start with the bench, ironically, like, you know, kind of go backwards order. But he's gone 5-3, he's not gone 6-2, which is the way Farrell tends to prefer to split his bench. You know, he tends to typically only go 6-2 against France. He's gone back to the 5-3, and he's picked a more controlling type scrum half, and likewise Kieran Frawley over Sam Prendergast in a more kind of, controlling, I don't want to say more conservative, but like...
He's a guy who loves structures, isn't he?
Exactly, a guy who loves system play and playing to structure and kind of keeping it like within the organisational side of the game in Kieran Frawley.
Tom Farrell as well,
Yeah.
as the outside back, like he will bring exactly that, he'll bring a bit of directness, but also he can distribute the ball a little bit if he needs to.
Yeah, so he has looked instead to a direct bench, right? To a bench that is going to look to come on and keep pressure on Wales rather than open the game up and try and, run the scoreboard up, which Ireland need to if they want to make up ends for kind of that first game and win some points difference back and put pressure on to win the championship next weekend. So if someone can do them a favour and beat France.
The big change in the starting team, and one that I'm a huge fan of, and there's a slight irony because we've been saying the whole time, like, a lot of people look at Ireland teams and go like, oh, why aren't my guys in there? Why aren't the guys from the province that I support playing? Because that's more important than just picking the best players, right? All of the Ulster players that he's been picking this championship have paid off.
Yeah.
Like, there's been so many gambles he's taken and he's gone like, right, Big Bob Balakoon, you're in now. And he's just gone like, right, okay, I'll just have this 14 jersey, I'll keep it. Stu McCluskey, again, I'll go on record and say like, we kind of misjudged what his role in this squad was before the Six Nations. It's like, oh no, he's playing better than Bundy Archie and Robbie Henshaw were. He's taking that 12 jersey for himself. And Nick Timoney is the big change, coming into the 7 jersey.
He was France's best player against France off the bench.
Yeah, he was Ireland's best player.
Yes, he was also. He was also Ireland's best player. No, he was the standout off the bench against France and has been playing so well for a few years at USC level. And I think this year has gone up a gear. I think Ulster in general have gone up a gear. And the thing is, I like it because they have been playing the most kind of exciting and confident rugby also this season, right? And I think in past, when you've seen these Munster teams play, they've often done it on, and this is like the thing I love about Munster, and like, again, like as an Ospreys fan, like Ospreys, Munster, Leicester Tigers, Saracens all have this about them, right? Where like when they win, it's often through spite.
Yeah,
it's often a bit of like being the bad guy and
Peter O'Mahony-ness to it.
Yeah, exactly. So many of the championships Munsters have won down the years, and so many of the kind of the great victories they pulled off, be it against Leinster, be it against French teams, be it against South African teams now. A lot of them come from being really gritty and determined and going, no way we're going to let you score. No way we're going to let you beat us. And just grinding people down. Also this season have been doing it through playing this really positive, really confident, really let's have fun style of rugby. And I weirdly think that does mesh with the Andy Farrell system a bit better. And I think there's probably a reason that they are making a more natural fit than Munster players who are playing just as well in a very different system.
That's really
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Why they're able to slot into this very Leinster style system. Because they're playing a more expansive, very different style of rugby. Not to say Munster couldn't do that, but I think a lot of it's a mentality thing, and a lot of it's like a confidence thing.
I do know what you mean, and I think the Balakoon...
I'm not saying the Munster players weren't confident, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I take your point. I think the Balakoon selection is kind of the biggest example of this, because Andy Farrell's Ireland are the most system-led team in the Six Nations.
Yeah.
Save for maybe what we thought was going to happen with Borthwick in England, but that's not quite panned out in the way we thought it would. But Ireland are the most kind of rigid team in the Six Nations, certainly from an attacking perspective. However, there will come points, and this is what we're learning in the Six Nations, of, for example, because contestable kicking is such a big thing, broken fields are inevitable. That is the end goal. That's what you're trying to achieve. And all of the Ulster lads that he's put in have really played into that. Nick Timoney, again, is somebody who will really help on kick chase, because I wonder if they may use him in the old school Jamie Ritchie role of going after kicks, letting Balakoon sit back a little bit to sweep up, slap those balls back and then see if you can get Balakoon and Stockdale to then work into that. Stockdale's a really interesting one as well, because he brings that kicking game that in the place of James Lowe. We talked about this on the opening episode before the France game, but that's another thing, is like if they end up winning balls back in the air and they want to go again back over the top with the rollers or whatever, and the scrum half's not available, Jacob Stockdale's really good at that kind of kick, just spotting space in behind, getting a few bounces on it, hitting 50-22s and so on. Yeah,
it comes back to what I was saying about the bench, because I think what Farrell's looking to do is keep pressure on Wales for 80 minutes, and that is through largely kicking game and through the forward pack and through that work rate. And they're not looking to go, okay, we're going to work around Wales, we're going to throw the ball wide and we're going to run to kind of open pasture, which will open up. There'll be a bit of that, and they'll be looking to that a little bit, as they always have, but it'll be, we play tight shapes, we play to draw in tacklers, we play to, do those lots of little passes and try and commit Eddie James in the 13 channel, who's been a little bit susceptible to that over the first few rounds, and try and tighten Wales up and then create some space later. And we want the bench to come on and do exactly the same thing. And just like South Africa style, carry on the work we were doing instead of come on and change anything. And I think that is probably the much smarter way to play. And it's not always been the way Farrell's gone with his benches.
No. And here's a stat for you regarding the kicking game. The most average metres per kick so far in Six Nations, Jamie Osborne. He has got the biggest boot of any of the kind of fullbacks anyone in the Six Nations. And I find that quite fascinating because it's not like every single kick he's done has just been him welling it back downfield.
Yeah.
Like against France, he was coming and putting in little chips and grubbers in behind and so on. And sometimes having to kick off his wrong foot as well, which just doesn't go as far naturally.
Yeah.
So the fact that Ireland have that as a bit of a fail-safe, because Wales will, presumably, because you can tell through the selection of Ellis, me on the wing, they will try and aerially contest as well. They will try and play Ireland this game as well and try and pick up scraps. And it's quite nice for Ireland knowing that they've got, someone tall in Robert Balakoon who will win these back. And if it ends up getting messy at the back, they can just give it straight to Osborne. They can give it straight to Stockdale. These guys have massive boots and they can just put Wales straight back under pressure.
Yeah. I think this Welsh team is very interesting. You mentioned Ellis Me coming back in. The other change is Dan Edwards comes back in for the injured Sam Costello.
Yeah.
It was a real shame. Sam Costello was so good.
Gutted for him
last week.
Because he looked like that's his chance. He's making that 10 jersey, like his own for the time being,
Yeah.
These guys are both young, but yeah.
And Jim Botham, who played the majority of the game against Scotland anyway after 10 pumped, he got injured
So
about 10 minutes
good.
in, starts. And again, he was exceptional against Scotland. He was one of the best players on the pitch and really nailed down that jersey for me. I think it's just like put himself in contention. I think when Jack Morgan's back, he stays in that 6 jersey alongside Morgan.
He's the closest thing
right with Falco on the bench.
Wales currently have to Jack Morgan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Certainly defensively.
Well, I think he's just so abrasive, and often he's a sort of player that if you're watching as a neutral, you miss what he does, right? Which is he blasts trucks incredibly hard. Like, I was a big advocate during the Pivak era of this guy should be starting, because Wales' biggest problem at that time was he just didn't take the breakdown seriously. And what he does, right, is he charges into a ruck and it stays hit.
Yeah.
He loves to come in and just clean 2 people out of one.
Rucks for fun.
He loves to lock over his own ball hard. He's an incredibly aggressive kind of breakdown operator. And he carries the ball well, but he's just so good at even if it is Ireland have won the ball comfortably, he loves to come in and just nudge the ruck and make sure the opposition who've cleared out, yes, they keep hold of the ball, but it just slows the ball down by a second.
And it saps their energy a little bit as well. It makes them have to physically try harder to keep that ball. And what I love about James Botham is, as you say, 90% of the time, his preference is to just ruck. Is to just go against people, old school, just whack people when they're on the floor, when they're exposed. Go for cheap shots, essentially. It's what he loves. And that means that the 10% of times where he does actually contest the ball and goes for jackals, clean on the floor, trying to win the ball back, they're usually successful. And that was what it was against Scotland, that he only really attempted to actually jackal the ball maybe 2 or 3 times, and he was successful on at least 50% of the times he did it.
What minute do you think the commentator will mention his grandfather played cricket?
Probably 1.
Yeah, it'll be about number 8, I reckon. The other 2 changes for Wales. So Ellis Me on the wing makes sense. Gabe Hamer-Webb had a good game, I thought, perfectly well. Wasn't the loudest game I've ever seen him have. Didn't have the most touches and availability, but worked really hard, did everything asked of him. This game plan suits Ellis Me better though. As someone who's really good in the air, someone who has a bit of pace about him, but isn't necessarily lethal with the ball in hand in the way a Hamer-Webb or a Keelan Giles or whoever is, but is instead looking to play a more kind of measured game.
That's it.
He works really hard.
If Wales are going to win this game, it will be nitty-gritty, won't it? Whereas I think Hamer-Webb's selection was justified, was vindicated, because Wales went 2 or 3 tries up at half time. That was always the way it was going to be for Wales. Is they have to try and fight for an early lead. Whereas against Ireland, if you try that, they will just counter you. They will win scraps on the floor and they will put you back in your 22 and they will score off set piece. They'll get Dan Sheehan stood on the wing and he'll walk in tries for fun. You can't really take that same approach against Ireland. I think Ellis Me coming back in is a really good selection.
Yeah, and Dan Edwards at 10. Yes. So Dan Ed's had a really weird last couple of months. So his trajectory as a rugby player, as a fly half, has basically just been straight up, 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 right? He came through under 18s, looked very solid. Looked first year of under 20s, looked like a decent player. Second year of under 20s, he's like, oh, this is the kid who's going to take Wales forward. Like, he just improved so much in that first year. And then from there was stuck in for the Ospreys, scored on his debut, the ceiling try against the Scarlets, just get the bonus point, like in the local derby. And from there was just like, bam, shot up, established himself as first choice by the end of that season. Following season, they were like, we're backing you, you're our guy. Had that kind of infamous like drop goal moment against Ulster during the Six Nations window. Following year, gets in the Six Nations squad, makes his debut off the bench against France. Is a bit part player over last year's Six Nations, but then continues to rise into that Japan game where Wales' his first win since the World Cup. He is player of the match. It's his first start at 10, kind of masterminds it. Goes on last autumn.
Scores a winning try.
Scores a winning try. Last autumn is like the key cog in Wales being so good against New Zealand, and then has a really tough day against South Africa and goes back to the Ospreys where he's a bit more up and down than he has been and was really good in the festive derbies, but had a tough game against Zebre and then was put in for the Six Nations and looked... The thing about Dan Edwards, right, we've always said this, is he shakes off mistakes so quickly.
Yeah.
Like, if he makes an error, he just, like, goes, OK, fine, and then moves on, and the next thing he'll do...
That Finn Russell type quality.
He's got that about him.
Jalibert-ish.
And this Six Nations, we've seen him, and it's not that he's made mistakes, but he's just been much less quiet. He's just been, or much more quiet, rather. He's just been much less kind of boisterous. And I think, in a way, he needed that game apart. He needed some time. It was something that Toby Booth, when he was in charge of the Ospreys, used to say about him, was just like, he wanted to give him time to reflect on things. And I think, rather than just give him 3 successive games of going, oh, God, OK, this isn't going well, give him some time off. He's seen Costello play so well. Let him come back with a bit of fire.
Yeah.
Like, he needed that.
And also, as we said before, like, him and Costello were very, very different styles at 10. He can look at how Costello ran the game plan and went, oh, OK, we're playing off 9 a little bit more. We're doing that. I might try that. It might not work, but we can try it, And we mentioned as well, like, when Jared Evans has come off the bench for Dan Edwards, he has always brought a really positive impact.
Yeah.
Because he's come on and just gone like, right, OK, I'm going to change the picture in front of me. Now, he didn't play quite as well against Scotland because he was playing like a more similar style to Costello. And so Scotland were kind of already used to defending a lot more off 9, So I think it'll be really interesting to see if Dan Edwards can kind of vary his game a little bit more in terms of what shapes he is calling.
And let's not forget, right, Costello is 3 or 4 years older than Edwards. Like, he's further along in his development. And so he should be in a better position.
Yeah.
Where Edwards is still learning and still developing as an international and as a professional player indeed. And I'm excited for this. Like, I think this was the right call putting him in ahead of Jared Evans. I think clearly Tandy just views Jared Evans as a number 22.
He's brilliant at that role.
Yeah, he's a brilliant replacement fly half. He can come on. He's done a really good job there in every game, every cap he's picked up over the last couple of months. And I'm excited for how Dan Edwards goes. Like, I think this is a chance for him to kind of strike back and win that jersey back. And I'm really excited by it in a way that I think was unhealthy for Ireland, the Crowley-Prendergast debate. Right, and I think actually what you've got to do is horses for courses, and there'll be periods when one's playing better than the other, and you put them in. There'll be periods where there's one game will suit one opposition will suit another, and you kind of like mix and match them. I think that's always been the way forward.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Wales right now are really suited by a bit of a 10 debate to fire both players up. You kind of need a bit more passion and fire and like everything in Welsh rugby. Like, we've been working on a deep dive about the game in Wales at the minute, and the biggest problem, the biggest like enemy of Welsh rugby right now is apathy.
Yeah.
And what we need is to target and prevent apathy, not just in the crowd, not just in people watching at home who are used to Wales losing, but in the team. Yeah. You can't have anyone being an automatic selection. And so you want more and more contests for these jerseys. And having Sam Costello and Dan Edwards going at each other, and you've also got Carwyn Leggett-Jones, who's been very good, like for the under-20s, played a couple of games for Scarlets either side of that as well. And looks really solid for an 18-year-old. Like, really excited about him. Him potentially coming into the mix soon. Although, obviously, right, if the WU get their way, they will cut a region and all 3 will end up at the same club as the West Wales. So that's the whole other side. But I think it's a really healthy thing that Wales have a bit of debate at 10 now.
And also just generally in any position, having two genuinely quality players who bring entirely different things to the table. It's a luxury that I've been, like, whenever I've seen Ireland fans debating about this, it's like, oh my God, like, you do not know how good you've got it.
Lewis Head's the only position where we always have that, right?
Yeah.
Where they have three players who are all very, very good international players who bring something different. Like,
You can leave Gareth Thomas out of the 23.
Yeah.
And it'd be the correct call.
who's
Like,
a brilliant scrummager, brilliant kind of tackle count and, like, does that low chop tackle. You have Nicky Smith, brilliant breakdown threat and brilliant scrummager, and Rhys Carey, who's the best carrier by a country margin. Like,
the most important player to
yeah.
Wales now.
Yeah.
Like,
Now that, out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I can't believe I'm saying that, but like obviously Thomas Williams hasn't been on the like world beating form in the Six Nations, and Rhys Carey has been the one person who's got Wales moving forward when they've not had Jack Morgan. So like he is completely. I mean, we talked about it enough in the French video, but like he's slightly changed the Welsh game there.
Two other changes on the Welsh bench.
Yeah.
So Adam Beard comes on. I think a little bit. Ireland's lineup has not been faltering well. Like, it's been faltering a lot, right? It's not been working well. So Ben Carter and Dav Jenkins. Dav Jenkins was unbelievable against France.
Yeah.
But they ran the line out 100% last week. Adam Beard, one of the best line out operators in Britain and Ireland, in Europe. Like, there aren't many who are better at the line out than him. Admittedly, he doesn't bring much more. Maybe he's in the team to like close the game out with his kicking game.
Yeah, that's a good shot.
But that's possible. But really, he's in the game purely for the line out factor, right? So the line out on the maul.
And if Ben Carter can't do 80 minutes, that's fine. Somebody can go and who is tried and tested and has done that.
Yeah, there's two sides to this, right? One is he can target Ireland's line out a little bit, and the other side is if Ireland are in a tight game, they tend to go to their maul. Like, how many times have we seen them try to close games out their maul? So you bring on someone who's a specialist maul defender.
It's a great point.
And put him in there, let him close out that game. I think it's a good role for Adam Beard. And the other change is Louis Hennessy comes in at number 23.
Another debut.
Yeah.
Young centre/winger from Bath. Looks
He's
really,
from
really
Cardiff.
promising.
He's playing at Bath.
Yes. Really, really promising player. Runs good lines. Is crucially quite tall and like rangy. Is a physical young player. And 13 is a position where Wales need to develop a little bit of depth.
Yeah.
Eddie James has gone really well this Six Nations. Like, Eddie James has been like kind of like the people's champ for me in this Six Nations for Wales. Like, I don't know, like I really like a player who is seemingly a bit of an underdog, but like proves people wrong.
He has summed up Wales for me this tournament, which is that there are fundamental flaws in the game going into the tournament, but he's got better game on game and he's never stopped working.
And I want him.
What more can you ask from a player?
Yeah, and he works bloody hard.
Yeah, he works incredibly hard. He's clearly learning a lot, and his instincts are getting better every game.
Fun fact about Eddie James as well. He has got the top average post-contact meters of any player in the Six Nations.
Yeah, and he's like fifth for like meters made.
Yeah.
He's doing very, very well. Like, considering, like, again, there are flaws in his game. There are things teams target him defensively. He's got better with that each game. And Louis Hennessy has a chance to kind of develop there because he looks long-term probably like the 13 option for Wales. Like him and Hennessy maybe having a bit of battle for that. James might move into 12 as well as an option.
I'd like to see that.
Alongside Joe Hawkins, who again, like I rate incredibly highly and have for a long time. But Louis Hennessy, you saw him playing under 20s, you're like, oh, this is the guy. Like, he just arrived fully formed, you know?
He's just like a natural like player on the ball. Like, who knows how to like run the right lines and like both either off 9 or off 10.
Guy kind of reminds me of Gaetan, you know, Gaetan
I was
of France.
literally just thinking that.
Like, tall, intelligent footballer, decent passing game on him, attracts defenders onto him.
Almost look like he's not thinking about the game.
Yeah, a bit of nonchalance about him. I really like.
Yeah, which is very fun. So a couple of areas to highlight. So you mentioned the line out there. So interestingly, both of the starting hookers for this are above 90% for their line out, like throwing success
Despite
rate.
what everyone says about Dewi Lake.
Yeah, exactly. So both teams' lineouts, like you mentioned, like, Ireland have the occasional hiccup when they get into like important ones in the game, but generally, like they're both all right. You know, Sheehan's I think sitting around 94% in terms of like lineouts retaining, which is huge. Dewi Lake on 92, I want to say. So like, it's really important that both teams keep that as high as they physically can, because like it's one of those games where like every line-out matters, because both teams are going to kick a lot. You know, they will end up with a lot of line-outs that they try and target in the opposition 22.
And Crowley kicks for touch an awful lot.
Yeah.
Like more than basically any other 10 of the Six Nations.
Absolutely.
Like loves to slap one in just outside the 22, make them think, make them work to exit.
Yeah. So that's one area. The scrum is a huge one. So obviously no Jeremy Loughman this week.
Yeah.
Instead, Tom O'Toole has come in on the loose head with Michael Mills sitting on the bench. So they've rotated out that one jersey entirely. Obviously, I think it's fair to say that Jeremy Loughman's had a bit of a mixed bag at scrum time in the Six Nations. Around the park, I think he's been
worked
excellent.
incredibly hard.
Yeah. I think he's like really shown that he's a great option for Ireland. And I think a lot of it's because they're playing against Wales. They've gone, we can slightly tinker with this. But the scrum has been one of the few areas that Wales have got a little bit of parity in.
Yeah.
It's such an unpredictable area of the game going into it, isn't it? The scrum?
Yeah. especially having Nicky Smith on the bench as well, who can target that a little bit. Archie Griffin is a weaker scrummager than Tom Francis, and Tom Francis does not have the biggest engine in the world. No. He might have built one out of Lego, admittedly, like a big engine. But
Loves Lego.
He loves Lego, that boy. He keeps saying he's not obsessed. He is obsessed.
He loves Lego.
But there is a genuine chance to target Ireland at scrum time for Wales. Like you saw this, mentioning that like Ospreys Ulster game, they're really good at them at scrum time. Cardiff got Leinster a little bit at scrum time as well. And Cardiff, this weekend, right? Last weekend just gone, you had Cardiff and Ospreys both beat Leinster and Ulster. There is some form going in here, right? Ulster, so many Ulster players coming into this team, they have lost in Cardiff, at the Scarlets, and at the Ospreys now this season.
And that's a bloody good Ulster team.
Yeah, and this Ulster team is playing so well, but they faltered the 3 times they had to go to Wales. Admittedly, this game's taking place in Dublin.
There's a grenade
but,
for you.
Just saying. And then, Leinster slipping up there. They slipped up against the Scarlets last year. They almost lost the Ospreys last year.
They
almost lost the Dragons this year, actually.
Oh, yeah.
They need to bring Snyman off, and he created 2 tries in the last 10 minutes. The Dragons had a chance to win that game.
Yeah. The other area I want to focus on is the breakdown. So
we
talked about,
let's talk about rugby.
Jim Botham. This breakdown is almost like an extra set piece at this point because I imagine both teams will really, really go at it. Typically with Wales, you've seen them leave the breakdown alone a little bit and try and get 15 men on their feet. But I think with the selection of James Botham, that he will be, even if he's not going after the ball, just blasting it and just making life really hard.
Likewise, Nick Timoney.
Yes.
There's a question of, because he's not a dissimilar player to Van der Fleer, in that he's big, good ball carrier, likes to lock over the ball, but really also goes for a lot of blasts. They're not necessarily identical players, but I can see the overlap. I can see them kind of going he's more similar than a John Hodnett or whoever else you want to bring in, But I wonder if this is a look at the changing of the guard, or if this is them going we want to change the emphasis in Timoney maybe being a bit less of a outright jackler and more he's going to look to blast a little bit. Obviously, he does both jobs.
The interesting thing is, in terms of jackals, so second and third for top jackals in the Six Nations thus far are Tyke Byrne and Caelan Doris. So they already have that in their team.
Yeah.
Nick Timoney doesn't need to be an outright jackler. He can just focus on his own game. It's very much similar to when they brought in Cormac Ezechuku the other week. And it was you're just going to be a pure edge forward, and when we're in attack,
player.
Yeah, when we're in defence, you're just going to fly off the line and chop people, and that's all we need you to do. And he did that really well.
And there is massive credit to Andy Farrell. We talked before the Six Nations about the fact that he hasn't chopped and changed an awful lot. And actually look at so many areas have changed every single week.
Yeah.
You look at this back row, it's basically been different every game. So full credit to him there. The other fact to mention very quickly is James Gibson Park. Will he keep up the form? Is that a one-off, or is it just how good he is now? Because he was very good off the bench against Italy, having had one of the quieter games, the weak games he's had against France. He was then I'm brilliant off the bench, having been dropped for one game, and now goes and gives maybe the best performance of his career.
That was a nervous laugh I just did when you brought up his name, because, from a Welsh perspective, having to somehow contain him is something that does not fill me with joy as a thought. So, I wonder if it's... The thing is, you can't even do the thing of just going right, just tell Alex Mann to hunt him all day.
Yeah.
You can't do that because it's not about that. It's not about him. Yeah. It's about what he does to the attack. It's about how much he speeds it up and he makes it function, And, there were question marks before the Six Nations of and even after that France game, of is the Ireland attack as good as it once was, because people have kind of figured out the playbook a little bit and how to defend it. You can only defend it if you physically got in front of them.
Yeah.
And often, the number one thing Andy Farrell values in an attack is work rate.
Yeah.
And when you've got somebody who is fizzing the ball that quickly and people working hard to get into position before the defenders are, it's going to be bloody hard to defend.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, because rugby, as much as we can throw out as many stats as we physically can, rugby is a game where you get your big lads, as a gender neutral term, lads, running at space, or if there's no space, at other big lads, and who can overpower them.
Yeah.
And Ireland have that down to a T, that they can find that space by just getting their pack to work relentlessly off the ball.
So, speaking of working relentlessly off the ball, Dav Jenkins 2 years ago was excellent in Ireland. Wales kept that game really, really close for a long time. It was 2 scores through to 70-odd minutes. Then Ireland scored a bunch of tries in the last 15 minutes maybe. Do you think we'll see a similar performance to that? Do you think we'll see a similar performance to Scotland, where Wales have a chance of winning it? Or is this going to be a return to the kind of bleakness?
I think it's
No, I didn't ask will they win it.
No, no.
It's like what margin are Wales going to lose by?
I think it's entirely possible that Ireland do what the Ireland and Dublin performance should look like and absolutely batter them. Weirdly, I don't think they'll beat Wales as convincingly as they beat England.
Yeah.
I think
But it's a one-off emotional game, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
It's a one-off, we've got a real chance to do something here, lads.
And again, I feel like, save for the odd game like the England game, potentially like this game, who knows, I could be wrong. Wales know how to stay in a fight, and it is the one thing that we'll keep saying about Wales pretty much for the rest of time, is Wales are a really passionate rugby nation who love to stay in fights, and even when they're 20 points down, they would not switch off and they'll still fly off the line and really go after you physically. And Wales have a good bench that targets set piece a little bit, and somebody on the bench like Jared Evans who can change the game in terms of attack. So I think Wales have enough in this game that they can keep it tight for 70 odd minutes. But I do think it'll be one of those where you'll end the game and you'll go, oh, we deserve a little bit better than that.
Yeah. My gut feeling is maybe Ireland get out to a lead early on that Wales never look like overcoming, but they keep it quite tight. They make sure it never feels like a blowout, even if by the end it is. They probably make this a bit more of a fight than perhaps, it has been a few times in the past.
Yeah. Oh, man. Trying to predict Wales and not guessing will they win is quite sad, but it's where we're at, isn't it?
Tandy era. No, it's the Collier Keywood era, really.